Welcome back to Elements of Art and our unit on shape. I'm Natasha and I have another art question for you. Have you ever heard of the artists Paul Klee or Juan Gris? Well, today we'll be learning more about both of these artists and exploring how they use the element of shape in their art. Examining the works of renowned artists enhances our understanding of art and art history. These artworks also provide us with visual examples that illuminate the core principles of artistic expression. We've chosen to study Paul Klee and Juan Gris today as they are two artists who have a very strong use of the element of shape in their artwork. In today's lesson, we will be learning about Paul Klee and Juan Gris. We'll look at how each use shape to create space and visual interest. And we will also be comparing and contrasting their use of shape and how it contributes to the overall composition and meaning of their artworks. Paul Klee and Juan Gris are highly regarded artists in the art world. Exploring their art pieces will enable us to acquire a better comprehension of the element of shape and foster a greater admiration for the powerful adaptability and visual strength of the element. Paul Klee, 1879 to 1940, was a Swiss-German artist who is considered one of the pioneers of modern art. His work was influenced by various artistic movements, including Expressionism, Cubism, and Surrealism. And he is known for his unique style, characterized by a strong use of shape and bold colors. Klee worked in a variety of mediums, including painting, printmaking, and sculpture. And he was a skilled musician and writer. First up, we'll be taking a look at some of Klee's paintings. I've selected 4 of his works for us to examine. First, let's start by taking a look at Mural from the Temple of Longing Thither. Thinking about all you've learned about shape in this unit, what do you notice about how Klee uses shape here? You might notice that Klee uses arrow shapes that denote multiple directions. We've been trained to pay attention to the direction an arrow points. What effect do these arrow shapes have for you and your visual exploration of the artwork? The majority of the other shapes in the piece are slightly skewed, thin rectangles. For me, these rectangular shapes that don't follow their geometric guidelines paired with the multi-directional arrows give a feeling of chaos or stress. What sort of feelings does this work invoke in you? Now, let's take a look at Cold City. In this painting, Klee prominently uses rectangles and triangles to create the buildings and rooftops of the cityscape. The shapes are arranged and overlapped in a variety of sizes and angles. What does this overlapping suggest to you? Klee also uses circular shapes in the sky area of the work. What do you think about how these curved shapes contrast with the more sharp shapes of the building structures? I find that the contrast of the circular shapes helps to create a moment of visual rest for the viewing eye. Next, we have abstraction with reference to a flowering tree. What type of shapes are you first noticing in this piece? I see only one real type of shape, that of irregular squares. What effect or sense of feeling do the shapes in the artwork create for you? For me, the shapes create a sense of disorderly organization, as they are all irregular but still fit together, perhaps providing a symbolic commentary on accepting imperfections. Do you view or glean from the work a different sort of message? Lastly, let's take a look at the painting Temple Gardens. Take a moment and really look for the shapes used and what effects they provide the painting. What effect does it have on you that the work is separated into 3 sections? For me, the division of the work into 3 parts makes me see the full work as 3 separate rectangles. Which section of the work pulls your focus the most? I find it difficult to locate a specific focal point, as there is so much happening in the artwork. However, I do find myself most interested in the shapes found within the center section. There's a graphic organizer in your lesson notes that will allow you to write down your observations about each of Klee's artworks we focused on. Pause the video and take a moment to reflect. Juan Gris, 1887 to 1927, was a Spanish painter who played a significant role in the development of Cubism, one of the most influential art movements of the 20th century. Gris's early work was heavily influenced by the style of the French Cubist painter Georges Braque, but he soon developed his own distinctive style characterized by bold, fragmented shapes. Gris often incorporated elements of everyday objects into his paintings, challenging traditional notions of art and elevating the status of daily life. Now let's take a look at some paintings by Juan Gris. I have again selected 4 of his works for us to examine. Let's start with our first work by Gris, the fruit bowl. What types of shapes do you see straight away at first glance? Gris uses a lot of polygonal divisions of his space. In this work, he uses a dense arrangement of small circles to create a pattern texture. Do you read these circles as shapes on their own or more as just decoration? For me, the main focal point of the piece is the cluster of ovals depicting oranges, both due to their color and their rounded shape contrasting with the many hard-edged shapes surrounding them. Do you see a focal point other than the oranges? Next, let's look at glass and checkerboard. What type of shapes do you see being primarily used? Geometric or organic shapes? I see a few geometric shapes, like in the green and tan checkerboard, but I primarily see more organic shapes, shapes built without following rules. What do you see in this work? We read in the title glass and checkerboard, and the checked pattern is visible, but I find it difficult to see anything else in the work that depicts actual objects. This work is heavily abstracted, and I view it as a non-objective painting. In Harlequin with a Guitar, Gris uses many different shapes, some as background, others as texture and pattern, and some to create imagery. What effect does this varied collection of shapes create for you? Notice how the majority of organic shapes exist in the creation of the Harlequin figure. What does that suggest about him? The use of organic shapes in his construction gives the Harlequin a gentle or humorous appearance, as opposed to rough-edged, harsh shapes that would make him seem more aggressive. Lastly, let's take a look at Juan Legua. What type of shape do you feel is primarily used in this piece? How do the shapes used in the construction of this figure compare with those used in the Harlequin painting we just viewed? I see a lot more sharp edges in the painting of Juan Legua, and a greater amount of detail and definition in the shapes. To me, this suggests that Gris knew more about this figure, and that this fellow was possibly a bit more serious than the subject of the previous painting. There is a graphic organizer in your lesson notes that will allow you to write down your observations about each artwork by Gris that we focused on. Pause the video and take a moment to reflect. Paul Klee and Juan Gris were both masters of using shape in their art, using it in innovative ways to create dynamic and engaging compositions. Both artists shared a fascination of the possibilities of shape, though their approaches were slightly different. Their contributions to the use of shape in art continue to inspire and influence artists today. Let's do a side-by-side comparison of a work by Klee and a work by Gris. In Klee's work, you'll see a simplification of shape. He doesn't go overboard with different types or too many. He references the idea of space with some overlapping. In this work by Gris, you do see a variety of shapes. They are filling the space, and there's a great deal of variety in their classifications. There's not much depth or space, as no real definition has been made to what is closer or further away in the artwork. What other similarities and differences do you see in the use of shape by Klee and Gris? Are there any we haven't mentioned? Paul Klee and Juan Gris were both known for their innovative use of shape in their art. Klee often used geometric shapes such as triangles and circles to create a sense of depth and movement in his compositions. Meanwhile, Gris used fragmentation in his art, breaking down objects into multiple viewpoints and using flat shapes to alter perception of space. Klee's shapes often had a whimsical and playful quality, while Gris's shapes were more precise and controlled. Despite their differences, both Klee and Gris captured the energy and chaos of the modern world with shape. Did you find these artists inspiring? Wasn't it neat to see how the things you've learned about shape can be seen in some of these famous artworks? Maybe you even saw shape utilized in a new way in their art that you'd like to incorporate into your own. If you enjoyed the art that we saw today, there's many more examples in books and online. Remember, art is all around you.
Hey!